If you've ever tried to enter a bill from a vendor who has extended 2% 10 net 30 terms to you in QuickBooks Online, you've probably noticed that you actually can't. So let's go ahead and walk through a couple of different ways that we can work around this particular limitation in QuickBooks Online. So either way, we're going to start the way that we normally would. We're going to start by entering the bill in QuickBooks Online. And we can do that by going right up here to the plus create button and then selecting bill. Now, at this point, there's a couple options that I want to show you. The first one is if you know that you're going to go in, enter this bill, and pay it right away, and therefore be in compliance with paying it within the 10-day window, you can always just enter the bill for 2% less. You can basically make every line item on the bill 2% less than what it is showing on the actual bill itself, and that will basically give you that 2% discount. Then when you send that payment within the correct window, your vendor should be able to recognize in their system why you did pay 2% less and record it as paid in full on their end. That being said, there is a different way that I actually personally prefer, because while it does have a little bit of an extra step, it also means that if you have more than one person working on the books, it will clearly communicate whether or not you're ready to, or whether or not you are able to take that 2% discount. And it just kind of helps prevent any underpayment on a bill. So what I personally end up doing if I have 2% 10 net 30 terms on a bill is I just go ahead and go through the process of entering the bill as it was given to me. Now, to speed this up a little bit, I actually am going to go ahead and use the feed feature and drop this bill into QuickBooks Online. And it will go ahead and read it and extract the data. Now, this feature does work pretty well, but it falls under basically all of the AI features that QuickBooks Online has rolled out. Trust but verify. We want to be sure that we are double checking everything, making sure that the descriptions match up, make sure that the dollar amounts match up, because while it is doing pretty well overall, it is still occasionally making mistakes. And this is actually a really great example of a mistake that it's making. The terms on this particular bill are, as we can see, 2% 10 net 30. Now, QuickBooks saw the net 30 and it automatically plugged it in, but we don't want to pay it in 30 days. We want to pay it in the 10-day window and get that discount. So here's what we can do with that. Basically, we could either add a line item on this bill and take that 2% discount right now and then go through the pay bills process as we normally would to record the payment being sent out to this vendor. Or what we could do, especially if you have an AP department that is going to be processing this separately, is I'm actually going to change the terms to net 10. And here's why. If I pay it after the 10 days, that will be an automatic indication that I shouldn't be applying the 10% or the 2% credit memo against it. So we have this bill entered, we have the bill date and the due date reflected with net 10. I'm going to go ahead and save and close this invoice. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go back up to the plus create here and I'm going to create a vendor credit. And it's going to be for Nope Social Media. And we're going to leave the date here because we want it to be the same date as the invoice or as the bill that we just entered from them. Since the category was advertising for everything that we put on the bill, we can go ahead and put advertising. And then in the description for this, we're going to put in 2% discount for payment within 10 days. And then we know that bill was for $10,300. And so we can actually use another fun little shortcut that's in QuickBooks, which is most amount fields in QuickBooks Online also work as a calculator, and you can use the same keyboard shortcuts that you would to create formulas in Excel. So I'm going to hit the asterisk for multiply, and then I'm going to say 0.02 for 2%. That's going to then automatically calculate the 2% discount that I am due on that $10,300 invoice. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close on this. Now, here's basically what happens with all of this. Since we created a bill and assigned all of the expense categories to advertising, and since we created a credit memo and also put the expense categories to advertising, we are going to create something where the net effect is the true amount that we pay. Okay, so it's going to show in advertising the exact amount that we end up paying. Now, when I go into pay bills, so up here to plus create and then under vendors, pay bills, it's going to show me that I have this bill and that it is due soon. It's due in 6 days. Now, one of the reasons that I like to do this is if I don't pay it within the 10 days, it's going to show this invoice as overdue. And that will be a reminder and an indication that, hey, I shouldn't take any credits that are available against this invoice. So I'm going to go ahead and first I'm going to say I'm going to pay it out of my business checking account. I'm not printing a check to them. I'm going to be sending them an ACH payment. And so I personally will put ACH and then the 8-digit date code. So 2026-03-19, that's the date that we're paying this. And then I am going to select this bill. Now, as you see, it automatically recognized that for Nope Social Media, we had that $206 credit available and it automatically applied it, meaning that I am only going to pay this $10,094. Now, if I didn't pay this on time, if I left it, I could just zero out the credit, say don't apply the credit, and it wouldn't apply it. But since I have that credit available and I do want to, I'm going to enter $206. Oops. And I'm going to take that credit. So now I'm going to hit save and close. And that's going to have marked that bill as paid. Now, if you use QuickBooks to pay bills, you can process it right through there. In this particular example, let's say that I might process it through QuickBooks, I record it through QuickBooks, but ultimately what I do is I then send a bill pay through my bank. So that's a separate item that I'm doing. But I am going to also run in and show you what this did on my profit and loss and how it's going to show how much I spent on advertising. So if I run into my profit and loss right now, just go to standard reports and then select profit and loss. It does run it for January through March. I'm just going to go ahead and say this month. So it's only going to show me for March so far. And sure enough, I see advertising and I see $10,094. If I click on this and drill into it, I'm going to get a little bit more detail. So it's showing me each line item of that bill that I entered and then the credit right here that I put in. So that worked out exactly as I would anticipate it would, okay? Now, this would look very similar if we had just put the 2% discount on the same invoice. It just wouldn't show a separate vendor credit. And I understand going through the process of doing a vendor credit may or may not be worth it. Again, if you're going to immediately pay that bill, you might want to just go ahead and add a line item on there with a little memo saying, you know, I'm taking my 2% discount for paying this invoice within the 10-day window. But if it's something where you are delaying paying it or where somebody else handles your accounts payable process, this is a really great way to communicate to them that you have a 2% discount available and that it is only going to be there if you pay it within the 10 days. Now, the whole process here, the fact that we have to do workarounds at all, means that we have to be very, very careful when we are implementing this system, okay? We want to be sure to document everything. And of course, if we accidentally end up underpaying a vendor because we took a discount that we weren't entitled to, we would want to apologize and rectify that as soon as possible. So let's say that I hadn't paid this today on the 19th of March. I ended up paying it 2 weeks from now. I would want to be sure to pay that full amount. And if for any reason I didn't, I would want to issue that $206 remittance for the discount that I wasn't owed as soon as I realized my error. Okay. So This is how we do a workaround for this in QuickBooks Online. This is definitely something that I have talked to Intuit about in the past. I've actually visited their booth at conferences and explained to them this is a big limitation that hasn't been brought over from desktop, and it definitely does mess with the overall robustness of your program. And this is something that doesn't change based on your subscription level. It's not like if you purchased the advanced version of QuickBooks Online, you're going to be able to do 2% 10 net 30 terms. It is just something that doesn't currently exist in QuickBooks Online. Okay, so if you are ever wanting to see this feature rolled out, I highly recommend using the gear icon in the upper right-hand corner and providing feedback to Intuit, because the more of us that complain about a missing feature, the more likely it is that they will work on the back-end process to roll it out to us. So fingers crossed that that will come out at some point in the future. But until then, here is how you can handle it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Holly from Accrual Mistress Bookkeeping and Consulting, and I hope you have a wonderful day.